So just to give you a bit of a tour of the machine, what we've got here is the headstock, and that's what we use to hold our material. Right now the headstock has this 3-jaw chuck in it, and when you adjust the chuck, there are 3 different spots where you can put the chuck key, one here, and one on the other side. So there's 3 spots for that, and when you adjust and turn this, all 3 of these jaws close at the same time. There are different kinds of chucks, like a 4-jaw chuck. We have them, we can install them, and they adjust with 4 different jaws, and they adjust individually. So you would have to adjust this one in, and then this one in, and then the 3rd and the 4th one in manually. The problem with the 4-jaw chucks is that adjusting each one manually makes it very hard to hold your project on center, but it does have the ability to hold things that are not round. So if you had something square that you wanted to mount into here, or rectangular, or some really strange, awkward shape, a 4-jaw chuck can be adjusted individually, so it can actually mount an odd shape into this machine to spin it for machining, okay? So in this case, we will show you how to mount your material, but first we'll just take a look at the other parts. So that's the headstock. Over here, we have the tailstock. We'll pull this tailstock back. I think it's jammed, actually. Let's just see here. There we go. So that's the tailstock. And the tailstock is where we mount things like our chuck for drilling operations. And the tailstock can be locked onto these ways. These rails here are called the ways. And we can lock onto them so that the entire tailstock doesn't move. And once it's fixed to the machine, you can use this tailstock for drilling operations. And you can also swap this out for something like a center. This is a live center, so this has got a spinning tip. And what that's for is if you were installing something really long in the machine that was extending way out, you could support it on this side, right? So we don't want pieces to be sticking way out of this thing, because as it spins, they'll wobble. But what we do for long material is we hold them in 2 positions here. So you can extend something and it be held in between, clamped on one side and held with this point on the other side. That's something I can show you for another time. So that's your tailstock. This here, again, these are the ways, and these rails are really important. They're precision machined, and they need to be protected. We can't ding or dent these or put tools or anything hard on them, because if these get wrecked, the whole entire lathe does not work to be accurate anymore. So these need to be protected. We don't even like running over these shavings and stuff that are on here. We try to keep them really clean, so we have brushes on the wall, and we are continually making sure that as we work, we clean off any of this shavings that are on these rails, on these ways, because when you run over shavings, it can damage the ways. So before you begin, you should have a look. You can see I'm uncovering all sorts of shavings here, and we'll just clean those off from time to time to make sure that we reduce any chance of damaging. All right, this here that's moving along is called the carriage, and this is what controls the cutting operation. You've got a tool holder. So this is a quick change tool post. The quick change tool post and a quick change tool holder. And then we've got this small adapter holder that holds a tool bit. Now there's nothing installed in there right now because I'm going to show you guys how to set this up. There's a lot to know on setting up a lathe, and it's a ton of information, which is why I'm making the video. But basically, the quick change tool post here, it's called quick change because you can undo this lever and you can take this off and you can swap for a different tool real rapidly, and it slides into place and it locks on. So it's just fast in terms of being able to swap your tooling around. And for the purpose of what we're doing today, we've got a tool here that's going to be used to do some machining. This is just what we call an HSS tool bit, high-speed steel. It's just a tool bit that I've taken and sharpened, and as it dulls, we can grind it on the grinder to make any kind of a shape or profile. This one's sort of set up to cut steel. It's kind of a sort of a general cutting profile for anything really, for steel or aluminum. But that is sharpened up by the teacher. Students can learn how to do that as well. And basically, so that's your tool holder. We've got the long feed here. So this is gonna move the entire carriage in the length of the machine. And we've got the cross feed right here. So this moves the carriage across the rails. You can see how that's going across there. Together, these two are kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch. If you remember those little red sketching boards where you can move the two dials to draw pictures on the sketchboard. It's the same kind of concept, and what you're moving is this tool bit is going to move in space depending on how you turn the dials. This one is your compound feed, and it can be positioned at an angle. So there's currently, if you take a look at the gauge that's here, it's set to 45 degrees. So that means this thing, when you turn this dial, this travels on a 45-degree angle, okay? And that's what we use for cutting chamfers and tapers onto our material. A taper would be something like this here. This is tapered. It's wide here and it's getting narrower. So if you wanted to do something like a taper, then the compound set at the proper angle can machine tapers for you, all right? You would just have to unlock this bolt right here and unlock the opposite side bolt. The tools are typically on the board. So there's an Allen key here. And typically we would clean out that hole because there's lots of shavings that are stuck in there. So I like to get a small drill bit or a wire or something in there to just sort of dig out any of the shavings that are in there, because if you can't insert the tool all the way, then it's gonna end up rounding out that hole. It's gonna strip the bolt. So this fits all the way down in there now that it's cleaned up. And let's just check to make sure that that's tight, and it is. And this side here, and that one wasn't super tight, so that's tightened up now. All right, so those are the major parts that we look at. There's the gearbox here, and this is where we have a lot of control adjustments. We'll go over that in a bit here. Something really important, you've got your lever here for turning it on. And so when the machine's ready and turned on, pushing it up would spin the machine in the upward direction. So this would go up and around clockwise. The middle is neutral, and pushing down would move this in the downwards direction, all right? So if you want to see what that looks like, as soon as I put the safety guard on, I'm able to run the machine. So this is me pushing the lever in the down direction. And we would call that forward because your material is spinning this way and it's coming down onto the cutter, which is, if you're cutting from this side of the machine, then you would want your material coming down onto the cutter. If you have your cutter positioned at the back side, which you're machining on this side, then you would not want it spinning this way because it would come in up, rubbing up underneath the cutter. If you had your tool on the back side, you'd take this handle and you'd run it in reverse. And now machining over here, the material's coming down onto the cutter. So it's not really a forward and reverse situation. It's more has to do with which side you're positioning your cutter on, and that's the direction you want it spinning down onto. And we've got an emergency brake down at the bottom here. So if this is running, we want to stop it by going back into neutral. But in an emergency situation, when we hit the brake, it stops hard, okay? So if you see the machine running, if I hit that brake, it stops dead, because not only does it shut off the power, but it also has a stopping brake inside of it. So that's your emergency brake. Again, don't use that for normal stops. You can use that only in emergencies. We don't want to wear it out. There are other controls on this thing. There's a lot of advanced controls we won't do too much on. I mean, this one here is an automatic feed, so rather than having to turn the dials by hand in order to get the feed, I will demonstrate flicking the switch here, which would send this automatically feeding for you at a very smooth and consistent rate. It's a handy thing to use. Many people don't use it when they're first learning the lathe. They just use this all manually and turn by hand. Your gearbox has all sorts of switches and dials and gears, and that's just something that I would reserve for teaching on an advanced video. In this one here, we're just going to talk about how to set the speeds, and that's about it in terms of the RPM for how fast the machine turns. Now, this machine does have another safety built into it. There is a switch here. If I get real close, you can hear that as I lower and raise this, you should be able to hear a clicking sound. All right, so this will not run if it's in the up position. It has to come low enough that clicks the safety, and then the machine will run. That's pretty much an overview of the entire machine. There is a master power shutoff here. So if I was to switch this, that shuts off all power. That's the lockout switch to the lathe. So for maintenance and service, we would shut that off and we put a lock through here so that it can't be turned back on. And there is a power button on here as well. So this is your shut off switch. When you push it, it clicks and it stays off. And it won't turn back on unless you, right? See if I try to turn any of this stuff on. So you've got your this one's got an electricity symbol. So that's your main electrical power. That's your fluid pump. Make sure the fluid pump is left off. We're not using the built-in fluid pump, so just leave the fluid pump off. There's your power switch. And then you would have to spin this and unlock it. And then here's your test button here. You can test to see if it's got power. If this is in, you've got no power, okay? If this is off, you've got no power. So there's your power button. There's your emergency switch. Just hitting that shuts it off. That's an emergency switch, just like that is an emergency foot pedal, okay? But for now, that's on. And of course, with the lid on, it does nothing, okay? That's your overview on the lathe. There's a light switch here too for light, making sure that you have enough light to do your work.